Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're taking a look at the Birdycam Lite from Veravon. This is a medium budget gimbal from Korea, I believe. This is a pretty good gimbal, but does have some issues. This is not intended for a 5D like I got here. This is too heavy for it. So this is for the A7S, for the GH4, something like that, and possibly smaller as well, but not a 5D. Now this thing here is the battery, and then we have the actual electronics mostly in there, I believe. Both an option for a 16 volt and a 7.4 volt. I believe the reason for that is so that you can use this to charge your camera, but I'm not sure about that. But basically you want to, if you want to turn this thing on, you move it to the 16 volt, not the 7.4 volt. Pretty easy to remember. And of course, remember that there's two places in there. One of them is in for the charger, one of them is out to go into that. Power button there to check how much battery you got left, which is nice. And then you do have an adjustment there as well if you want to move this back and forth as a bit of an adjustment for the weight. Pretty easy to set up the stand. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes, I guess. That's the actual unit right there. And then this does come with a separate controller unit, which is wireless. So you can either use it wireless, meaning having someone else use it, or you can attach that onto there using sort of a hot shoe connection like that, and then lock that in place. And then that would give you sort of your controls there. You can undo this piece and then move it somewhere else if you want, but this is where I figured works best for me. And even though this does have a wireless control unit, that doesn't mean that you would ideally have someone else controlling this from far away, because in my experience, this doesn't give, the smoothest movement, so I wouldn't want to be using that in the middle of the shot. The grips on here are pretty nice. They are very rubbery and kind of a soft rubber. Pretty nice, very grippy. The case that it comes with, which actually feels really nice, I guess it's sort of a laptop bag or something like that that Veravon have sort of converted, but the things that Veravon have added to it are not the best quality. So I mean, like, this thing is held in place with some Velcro that's not very strong, and then within about a day this thing broke, so only one of these is actually still in place. So not big issues, but overall it's fine, and the actual case itself feels very nice. So it's just the sort of insert that's not very good. Now, the setup time for this is a bit longer than I would want, because what I would want is a big case where this thing fits into there, because it's not more weight to carry if it's larger. But here what they've done is they've gone for a smaller case, so you have to sort of undo the parts and sort of fold everything back into the perfect little shape that it needs to fit into. So that's not what I would choose. I don't want to have to set up every single little thing when I get to the shoot. I want to have a larger case that the entire thing just plops into. Maybe a small size would be a preference for some people, but for me, I would just prefer the ease of use of having a larger case. Over here, we've got this compartment for some spare pieces or whatever. Some nice padding on top of this compartment as well, and nice padding between the compartment and the actual inside of the case. That's pretty nice, and does have a really nice quality strap as well. Now, the flying performance here is very good. It's very, very stable, even for fast running, and your body is shaking around, your arms are shaking around, but your camera is stable. But the actual movements of the camera, especially when you're trying to move more slowly, just looks a bit robotic, which is a fairly common thing for gimbals like this. So it's not necessarily the smoothest motion, but it is very, very stable, which is a very nice thing to see. The setup time is longer than I would want, especially with the compact case, but it's not too bad. You can set it up in about 10 minutes if you have it sort of almost ready to go. And from the case, if it's all folded up, I would say about 20 minutes to set up and balance. So not too bad, but not super quick. Now, the build quality, like I said, is okay. Just a few little mistakes with the locks. And, if that was fixed, that would be fine then. Another thing I would like to see on there is larger locking knobs, so that so it's easier to actually lock it down really nice and tight. And I would really like to see these two right here be knobs that you can turn by hand. These are two that I put in myself. Normally what this had were just some silver screws like that. Unless you actually have some replacement screws like I did, you actually need the little Allen key to set this up from the compact case. So that's the one place here where a tool is actually needed to set this up, but if you get a bigger case, then that wouldn't be an issue. This is made pretty well. I mean, it looks pretty good. You know, the parts feel pretty good, but there are some mistakes in the manufacturing. I had to add a little piece of metal there myself, which wasn't very difficult. I just bent a little piece of metal and slid it in there. But the reason for that was that this thing was wonky. It was sort of bending down, and so to sort of bring that up a bit, I had to put a little piece of metal in there. The issue is just that this doesn't fit that perfectly, so it droops down a tiny bit, and that would cause an issue with balancing. I just made a video explaining that. So I just bent a little piece of metal. This is from like a toy thing I got at the pound store. So I put that there, I just bent it with pliers to shape. What that does is that fits like that. And then when I tighten it, it doesn't droop anymore. The issue that would cause is if that was drooping, or if that there was drooping, which it does, the issue would be that this thing would be balanced perfectly fine. You know, wherever you'd move it, it would stay in place. But when you tilted it, it wouldn't stay in place that way. It would, you know, you'd move it to there and then it would bounce back to center, which is not what you want. You don't want it to bounce back. You want it to, you know, with an electronic gimbal, I'm sure you guys know, you want it to stay in place when you balance it. When you lock this down, you have to push this forward. You have to, you know, if you don't do that, if I was to just lock it down like this, that would be bent right there, which means the camera would be too low, the entire thing would be drooping, and it wouldn't be able to balance properly. So you have to literally push this forwards when you make this adjustment. Push it forward and then lock it in place. Now, just like most other gimbals that I've seen, the quick release plate is not very good. It works, but it's not ideal. It's just, you know, it doesn't hold onto the camera all that well. Like the camera can move on it a little bit. And, you know, the screw on it doesn't have like a thumb thing that you can turn with the thumb, so you need to get a coin. This piece can get a bit stuck when you want to move it back and forth a bit. It's not big issues, but just not ideal, not as well designed as it could have been. You can add your own quick release plate on there if you want, as long as you're not over the limit of what the motors can handle. This thing wasn't locking properly, so I had to actually spend a bunch of time on that, probably about 2 hours to fix that. I don't know if that's going to be an issue on all of them, but here I think the screw was a bit too long or something like that. I had to add a washer there for this thing to be able to lock down tight enough, because before that, if I tilted this thing forward, the actual thing here would actually move out of place. So my conclusion is that this is a good piece of equipment that has a few mistakes that could be easily handled in the factory. If you want to see updates about this, then see my description box down below. It's overall good and you can get good results from it. As long as Varavon fixed the issue with these things not locking straight and drooping down a little bit, then this is actually a very good gimbal. I did get some good results from this. I'll have a link to my video comparing this to a glide cam, a shoulder rig, handheld, so you can get an idea of how those things compare, what are the pros and cons of each different one. And watch that video until the end, because at the end there's a nice big chart that explains things really well as well. So overall, what I would say is this thing could be really good, but do check for updates down below to see if these issues have been fixed. As usual, feel free to ask me questions in the comments down below. And if you'd like to support this channel and you'd like to buy one of these, then you can buy it through the links down below. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.